Good afternoon. My name is Myron Ybarra. I am the Crim 4 Justice System instructor at the Madera Community College Center. I wanted to give you an overview of what to expect in this course. The course is 18 weeks, just as it would be if you were at the college in a face-to-face classroom. You can expect to commit about 2.5 hours per week with regard to study, reading, lecture, as well as written assignments in this course. So in some weeks it may be a little bit more, some weeks it may be a little bit less. Further, if you have any questions, issues, comments, or concerns with regard to either the material or being able to access it, feel free to get a hold of me through my email, which is myron.ybarra@sccccd.edu. Or I can be reached on my telephone number. That number is area code 559-304-3059. You can get a hold of me Monday through Thursday from 0900 hours to about 1600 hours. And if you call me and I'm available, I can take the call immediately. If not, I generally get back to you within that day. Or you can text me and I'll respond that way as well. The mechanism for getting this information to you is primarily going to be Canvas. That's going to be the online system for instruction. I'll be doing attendance through there as well. And given the fact that we're online, your attendance is going to be based off of your login times and the access that you have. Canvas is able to record that, see how much time you spend in one area. So I'll know who's actually watching the lectures and engaging the lectures the way they're supposed to, how much time they're spending on the assignments, etc., etc. And then again, you can access online, Canvas online rather, through the State Center Community College District portal, which is scc.instructure, instructure.com. You'll have to have your user ID, which is your personal identification number, and your password. If you have any difficulty getting on, you can also get a hold of the support center via telephone or through their email. The telephone number is 844-877-2233 or at sccCD.edusupportcenter.com. And if you require any reasonable accommodation to have access to any of this material, please get a hold of me. And also get a hold of the Disabled Student Services through WebAdvisor at the portal, right? And they can make reasonable accommodations for you, and I will as well, to ensure that you have access to all this material. There is also a online student readiness tutorial that is, I put a link to that in the announcement section of Canvas. You can utilize that link, and they have a bunch of interactive guides and videos, as well as some quick tests that you would do, quizzes more like them, to see how well you're going to be able to adapt to the online learning environment. So if you have any questions, again, feel free to get a hold of me through, again, my email account or through the telephone. And I'll be more than happy to take your calls. My plan is to, about 4 times during this semester, to set up video access through Zoom. So if you have any questions, issues, comments, concerns, or there's things that we need to discuss directly, you'll be able to do that with me as well. All the material, this is going to be a asynchronous class, which means that you'll have access to the material, the lectures, and everything within the modules. The modules are going to be synchronous, so you'll have to complete one. There'll be a specific set of time to complete it, and then you'll move on to the subsequent module. If you complete everything within the module, you'll get credit for everything that you complete, and of course that'll be graded on a point system. And then it'll move down, it'll lock out that one module. So if you don't complete it, you won't have the ability or the opportunity to go back. So I'm leaving everything open within the module basically 24/7, so it allows you a little bit of flexibility as to when you're going to have access to that work, which was one of the benefits of going online, obviously. And one of the drawbacks is it's going to require you to have a little bit of good planning skills, so that way you can ensure that you set enough time aside to be able to do the work that's required in the class, so that way you can get credit for it. This is not a pass-fail. This is a graded class, so you'll need to obviously study, keep your grades up in order for you to successfully navigate this course. There is an assignment right now in this class. That assignment is going to be an introduction. And I normally do this in my face-to-face class, and I'm going to give you the option, or the opportunity, not option, rather the opportunity to do it as well. But you're going to have a couple of different options with regard to it. So your first option is going to be submitting a written introduction to me via email. And again, my email, myron.ybarra@scccd.edu. You'll send that to me, and I'll give you credit for that. It's going to be full credit, so there's not going to be really a pass-fail, so to speak. So you'll get full credit, full points for it. Or you can do what I'm doing and send me a video. Most of you have smartphones now, and you can take a quick video and send it to the email. And upon receipt of it, I will give you credit. Now, what you're going to do in that video, or what you're going to include in your written text, is going to be, you're going to tell me a little bit about yourself, your education that you have, career goals, educational goals, some of the experiences that you have that are directly related to law enforcement, and short-term goals with regard to education, as well as long-term goals with regard to education and employment. So, I mean, if you were to do a video, you could probably do it in about 2 or 3 minutes. It'll probably take you that long. The written obviously is going to take a little bit longer, so I'm giving you the option to go either way. So for me, I started with the department, started working in law enforcement actually right out of the military. I ETS'd with an honorable discharge from the military back in 1988. And pretty much from there was, while I was in Korea, my last duty station, I was submitting letters to different law enforcement agencies down in Southern California, because that's where I'm originally from. And the California Department of Corrections, it wasn't CDCR at that time, was the first to respond, and I went through their application process. I did their background investigation, physical agility, etc., etc. And they were the first ones to offer a job. I got picked up with the Department of Corrections back in November of 1988. And my first prison I was working at was at California Rehabilitation Center, which is in Norco, California. Worked both male and female inmates. It was one of the unique institutions where they were both male and females. They weren't intermingled, except for there were a few vocational classes where they were actually able to take them together, but there were 2 different yards, or separate yards. Yard 4 was for the females. Yards 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 were for males. I worked mainly culinary, did that for a couple of years in the different areas. Worked outside yard, and then culinary. And CRC is kind of an old institution. I knew I wasn't going to go very far at that location with regard to getting time off and that kind of stuff, because a lot of people that were there had 20 plus years, and in order for them to get decent days off, like part of the weekend or so. So I decided when I heard that they were going to be opening up the largest female institution in the world, CCWF, to go out there, and I submitted my application. CCWF picked me up right away. And I actually opened up CCWF back in 1990. We cleared the yards and then took in the new inmates when they transferred them from CRC as well as from CIW. I opened up, my first assignment was the Administrative Segregation and Security Housing Unit, as well as Death Row. And I did that for a little over 2 years. And pretty much while I was there, I did just about every job that you can think of that's in the institution. So I worked housing units, ADSEG, SHU, Death Row, yard officers, where you had inmate work crews, search and escort, officer positions, working the watch office, central control. I worked work change. I actually did hospital coverage, where we have inmates that would be transported out from the institution to get hospital, to get medical services rendered. So I did all that for about 8 years. And right around that time, I kind of knew that it wasn't going to be a good idea for me to stay in and turn keys for the rest of my life. So I knew that I was going to need to upgrade my education. I went back to school. That was before the internet, so we actually had to go to libraries to study and to get source material. So I went back to school, got my degree in criminal justice, and applied for a position of correctional counselor there at the institution. Got picked up at the sister institution, which was built 4 years after CCWF, and that was VSPW. It's now known as VSP. They've removed the females from that institution and converted it over to a male institution. So I worked at VSPW as a CC1, Correctional Counselor 1, where we deal with all the classification actions within the institution, and that's from bringing them into the system from their sentencing documents, which is the abstract of judgment, their judgment. They're cataloging their probation officer reports, arrest reports, and then setting them up within the institution based off of security, doing a risk and needs assessment on these inmates, and then putting them into jobs and putting them into different areas of the institution. Did that for about another 8 years, actually a little bit less, and then promoted to CC2 supervisor, which I was in charge of an entire yard, a little over 1,000 plus inmates, and roughly 7 or 8 CC1s working underneath me. And then I basically ran all the classification actions for a yard. Also worked what they call institutional classification committee, where management is involved in the classification process for larger, more complex cases. And then went to work as out-of-class facility captain for a little while, off and on. And I kind of got tired of the institution. It was almost 20 years living inside of a prison. Well, not rather living there, but working there. And so I went to parole. I was fortunate enough to get a position at the Fresno parole office. They sent me back to the academy, went to parole, and that's where I finished out my career. I worked both Fresno and Madera counties. Worked numerous assignments. Didn't work a sex offender unit, but I worked transients. I worked up in the mountains, so that was my last assignment, which was working in the eastern Madera area, dealing with Oakhurst, Coarse Gold, North Fork, YLP, Yosemite Lakes Park, all the way into Yosemite, Bass Lake, Ahwahnee, Nippenwasi, Mariposa. So all that area back there, that was my area where I supervised. I did that, and I knew that I was going to retire. I mean, I did, almost 29 years with the department, so I was getting to my retirement age, and I knew I just didn't want to sit at home. So I went back to school back in 2016 and got my master's in late 2017, 2018, and almost immediately upon retirement, picked up a job teaching. I was teaching over at UEI College in Fresno, and did that for about a year while I had put in an application at Fresno City College, and again with Madera and most of the colleges within the State Center Community College District. Madera was the one that contacted me first and offered me an adjunct position, mainly teaching corrections, community corrections and corrections, but I also teach a number of other classes, such as the one we're in right now, which is Crim 4. So that's my background in a nutshell, and that was probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 minutes. So like I said, it's pretty simple to give that update announcement, if you will. Anyway, I hope that you find this class interesting, challenging. The information that's in it sometimes is a little bit on the dry side, but it is required, and it'll give you the good basis for how the criminal justice process works from arrest all the way through the appellate process and going into corrections. So, and if you're working in law enforcement, it's something that you need to be aware of and you need to know. So, again, thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to spending some time with you online. Again, if you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me, and have a good afternoon.